welcome to another episode of The Lab where we look at business. And today we get to spend time with Stephanie, who was a graduate from Central. So we'll learn a little bit more about her and about her work. Stephanie, how you doing?
Doing great. I appreciate you having me on here today.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say good morning, but you know, there's some time zone differences. 1 o'clock here. Where are you right now?
I'm in Manhattan right now.
Manhattan. Okay. And I think you were just saying that it's one of those beautiful 80-degree, slightly muggy days.
Yep. Yeah. I'm just deciding if I want to go outside, which it's undecided, I guess.
So if you were going to go up to Central Park and play around, how would you get there?
Subway. That's the way to go. We sold our car before we moved here because we used to live in Seattle. But we were like, I hated driving in Seattle. There's no way I was going to drive out here or ship a car. So the subway, we live down in the financial district, and we have basically every single stop that comes here. So it's really easy to go up north.
Awesome. Right on. All right. Well, let's kick it off. Stephanie, where do you work? And how does the staffing process work there?
Yeah. So I guess I'll answer this question kind of in two parts. So right now I work physically from my home office, but for Facebook.
Thank you, COVID. Yeah.
Thank you, COVID. But my paychecks come from a staffing agency called Allegis.
Okay.
Allegis, I think that's their name. So their staffing works. Allegis' staffing works is their staffing agency. They outsource all of their folks. So Facebook hired them. Allegis hired me to work for Facebook. So okay. If that's kind of confusing, it's just think of a triangle for us.
No, it makes sense. So like in a sense, you are the product of Allegis.
Yes. Yeah. So all my paychecks come from there. Facebook pays them, they pay me, but I am working on Facebook campus or with Facebook other employees. Right. So the staffing works there is, but for me, they outsource everybody, and I'm one of those everybody's. And then at Facebook, I'm a participant recruiter. And so I work kind of like regular staffing, which I think we'll get into too, or I can jump into now what I do.
It's all good. Yeah. So I want to explore this model for a minute. So basically, Facebook pays Allegis for your hours, for your time there. And then they take some of that money and they probably have a little skim off the top and then they pay you.
Yep, exactly. And it's kind of interesting because I used to be with a company that was like Allegis, but in Seattle. And so it's just interesting to know when they came to me and they're like, hey, we have this Facebook job for you. We want to pay you X amount. I was like, oh, whatever I'm making, you're making like either double or about probably 40% or so more. So it could be different out here than what we did in Seattle. But I remember for Seattle, we had like basically as huge of a margin as we could get. So like to pay me as little as possible, but still having me accept the job. Right. Because Facebook will pay the agency, a flat rate. And then it's Allegis' job to figure out what to pay me so they can still make money. So it's just interesting kind of being on both sides where I'm like, I know you're making a lot of it. So
you get, let's just say that Facebook pays Allegis $100 an hour for Stephanie. Mm-hmm. And then Allegis goes, okay, can we get Stephanie for 60? Can we get Stephanie for 70? But you actually don't know the rate that Facebook is paying them for you.
Correct. Yeah, right. Exactly. So, and even it can differ between similar positions. So I've got a lot of coworkers and they are with other agencies. So it could be different for them too, which also kind of adds another layer of, I don't know what they're making. And of course, I don't know what Facebook is having my agency or the other agencies make too. Right. So it's just kind of interesting to think about that we're all just like, of course, in a business trying to make money, but it's just cool to think about it that I never ever knew that was a thing until getting into agency recruiting.
Do you ever feel like they're taking advantage of me? Like, screw this, I'm gonna go like straight to work for Facebook because I can get all that.
If I could do that and go straight to work for Facebook, that I'm there already. But the reason that I do a lot, this is my second contract, is because it's a lot easier to get to Facebook through an agency. So I think it'd be not impossible, but it'd just be a lot of work on my end to try and find a job. And my current role, they don't have full-time positions for. So full-time, I do 40 hours, that type of full-time, but I'm not like a Facebook employee. I'm still a contract worker. Right. Go ahead.
You said they don't have that kind. Facebook doesn't have that kind of role. Is that because they outsource all the staffing? They just okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. And when I was at Microsoft too, we had a team of like 30 to 40, so it was just easier for Microsoft to outsource all of that because I can't even imagine how many applications they would receive if Microsoft posted the job posting versus agencies posting the job posting. So it makes a whole bunch of sense. But if it was easy for me to get a Facebook job, I'd take it because the benefits would be much better.
Do they have different color badges for contractors? And
Microsoft did. We were orange badges, and then the full-time were blue badge. And Facebook, I think they actually have same badges, but we're labeled as CWs, called contingent workers.
Yeah.
But I haven't actually gotten a badge yet. I have my picture taken, but they're like, when the office opens up, we'll give you your badge. Right. So I'm like, maybe next year. I don't even know when.
So you graduated a couple years ago. And you went through kind of the standard protocol. You probably had a staffing class or something. We talked about, personality tests and convergent validity and stuff like that. You're probably not doing a ton of that. So how is it different than kind of what you were exposed to? What does it look like?
It's very different because I remember graduating school and not really grasping what recruiting was. So I remember getting into my first job. It was at the agency. And I was our office coordinator. And so I think learning firsthand, what people actually do, the programs they use.
Watching, yeah.
And they don't use the vocabulary words, obviously, that we learn in school. And it's nothing bad. It's just they're not walking around going, we are corporate recruiting or agents, recruiting.
Right.
This is our big difference. And
this is a structural behavioral interview. Yeah.
Exactly. And so just in that terms, it was just felt like I was just learning something new, and different companies, different cultures, different, everything from what we're able to learn in the time, in a classroom. But I think the biggest difference is just the stress. I think is something that we don't. I mean, maybe I learned it. I don't really feel like I remember being I'm going to be stressed.
We try to stress you out, but no, it's different.
Different type of stress. So I think that's just kind of the biggest surprise. And I don't mean to scare any person going into the workforce, but for my personal, what I chose to do after school, I was like, wow. I didn't learn I was gonna come, wake up, go to work, come home, sleep, wake up, so right. It just, so that was quite the biggest shocker for me, where I was in school, you have all this free time and all of these different activities we get to do. But then the actual job of it, I just felt like it was completely brand new, because there's templates they'll show you, of course. And there's ways that each company will have you do things, but then it's also so personalized that you have to learn how to do it for yourself, and do it the way you like it. So It's just so many things to learn and so many things to just figure out what works best for you.
There's this stereotype with a headhunting crowd. I call them headhunting, I mean, whatever, staffing agencies, PEOs, I don't know, that it's pretty cutthroat. And even amongst each other, amongst agencies. So you have agencies each competing, to contract with Facebook. So they undercut each other and slam each other. And then even within agency, if somebody has a higher placement rate or something than somebody else, and they'll, steal each other's candidates, is that real?
Yes, it's real. And so when I was at the agency as a recruiter, my team our lunch breaks, our little breaks, they were absolutely fantastic. Loved my whole team. But when it came down to it, it really was so money focused that it was say one of my colleagues was Allie, was Allie's, of course, the top earner again this week, because she was just so aggressive. And she'd be like, oh, I talked to that person last week. So it really is you can't use somebody else's candidate.
They call dibs, basically.
You call dibs, you put your name on them in your applicant tracking system. And so it's, if something kind of goes wrong recording wise, it's putting your name next to somebody, it just kind of becomes a gray area. But I remember being so frustrated because I was new in the role, but I was I want to beat Allie. I want to get there, but also I'm not a very competitive person. And so those two things, I was I want to beat her, but also I don't really
I don't like who I'm becoming.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's completely true. And I think just one of the things that was hard for me to learn was real about the job was it was so competitive. And it was all about money. I'm sure some places were completely different, but I remember talking to clients, we have different groups. So I was a recruiter, we'd have account managers, and sometimes you go along with account managers to talk to clients, but they would be oh yeah, and I'm talking to this agency as well, and they can do this rate. What can you do? And so it really was they would be giving us that type of information. And it was the other, our team's account managers figure out how low can we go, while still making money, while them account manager making money, us making money, company making money, candidate making money. Like we don't want to offer $10 when another agency can offer 15. So it's all about, I don't know, but it's all about some kind of balance. I didn't get there to learn how they do it.
There's like, I'm imagining if you go with an account manager who comes in and says, agency X can offer this rate. Can you beat it? You got to believe that as soon as you beat it, they're going to go back and say agency Y offers this rate. Wow.
That would I say would be a company, if they would do that, would be like a more experienced company, or I guess more experienced client who works with agencies. I guess I was kind of lucky where we only had that happen a couple of times. And then the rest of the time, like if we worked with them again, they would probably, or in our case, they would split up. So if they had 10 roles, they'd give us 5, they'd give the other agency 5, just to kind of still keep it competitive. And also, make us still want to work together, like have that good working relationship.
Yeah, I'm imagining the backdoor deals again, and really like the suppliers sort of in that case is kind of Facebook, right? Supplying the contracts, and they really hold all the cards. Facebook, Microsoft, they can kind of do whatever they want.
Yeah, exactly. Like they control when they want new hires, but also I remember when I got my Microsoft contract, it was like they had some type of schedule when they wanted to hire bulks of people. But when I started my contract, that was when they had like, I think it was 8 hires, when normally they do hires of like 15 or something. So we were kind of on an off schedule. But I remember I talked to the agency on a Tuesday, had my interview with Microsoft on a Friday, and then like by the following Friday, I knew I had received the offer. But like it was really fast, and obviously that's ideal. Like to you got a job quickly.
Right.
But it was just because they were like working overtime to try and fill those 8 or so new positions they weren't kind of prepared for. Because something that a lot of recruiters do, and I try to do, is keep a pipeline, and so they know Microsoft will want X amount of recruiters in.
Right. So be ready for it, basically.
So be ready for it, yeah. So, to submit them over. And so like the other agencies are going to be ready for it too. So they want to, find the best talent and beat them over. And so I could only be represented by one agency. So like I couldn't go to, my Aerotech was my Microsoft agency. I couldn't go to Aerotech, have them submit me for Microsoft, and also go to like Kforce and have them also submit me. That would be a no-no for both sides.
With Allegis, something like that, is that close? Yeah. With Allegis, like, do you have like a contract? Are you locked in, or can you be like, peace out, I'm going to the next agency?
I can't. Well, they didn't give me a contract actually. So I got a contract with my Microsoft job, but I remember like messaging my recruiter, and I was like, hey, you gonna send me over I've accepted verbally, and I think I wrote an email like, I'm so excited to start. Sure. Like, you're gonna send me a contract? And she's like, no, we don't really do that. Like, I can send you a templated one and fill it out for you. And I was like, that'd be great. She never sent it. But I am an employment at will. I'm an employee at will. So I could drop it. I don't think I could go to another agency right now if they have a Facebook contract and go with them. I think that would, I'd have to wait till either I quit, and then there's some rule about working at Facebook for a certain amount of months after your contract ends. So I don't know how that'd work, but
I think that's probably an agreement between Facebook and Allegis, or each of those.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So, okay. At Facebook, I would assume you're not hiring staffing people, because they did that when they got you. So who do you hire?
Yeah, that's a great.
In your role as staffing, yeah.
So my role is at UX, or user research participant recruiter. And so I hire participants for Facebook's research department. So say you're a research major. I don't know what you do there, what your title would be, like some program manager, some research person at Facebook, and you want to do research on Facebook ads or Instagram shops or something. So you build this whole report. I come and meet with you, and you say, I want to talk with 12 people. Here are my dates. Here's the session types. A lot of people think of focus groups, or that was really popular, of course, during like pre-pandemic times, but now it's more one-on-one interview, virtual style. So that's primarily who I recruit for. So it is anyone who fits the criteria of the researcher at the time's needs, and it's all just outreach. The way we find these participants too is There's data scientists within Facebook who is able to pull lists. I don't know how they figure out criteria. I mean, I feel like any of the things I kind of think about, we're like, wow, but isn't that like privacy issues? Like, how do we know so much information? But they figure out like the pool of participants, and then I send mass outreach. So it's a little less personal, but that is the type of person or I guess types of people I recruit for, only participants for all these research studies.
So you're actually not hiring Facebook employees. You're basically hiring a sample of research participants to generate knowledge. Like, I'm imagining an example where someone will come to you and say, hey, we think this ad for fill in the product will work for 12-year-old boys. So what we want here, we want to talk to 15, 12-year-old boys that are located in the Southeast United States. Go find them.
Yeah, and so all of that criteria would be given to the data scientist. All the criteria would also be given to me. And then, so instead of posting a job posting, I would create a survey, send that out, and then go through the survey responses to be like, okay, this guy's 15, we don't want him. This one lives in Alaska, can't use him. And so just like making sure we're weaning out the people who aren't, who could have gotten accidentally in the right. Data scientist poll. And then the researcher would then go, okay, I want to talk to Timmy, John, and Marcus and all these other people, and right. I reach out to Timmy, John, and Marcus.
And do they incentivize that research? They get like $20 or a gift card or something to be a part of it. Okay.
They do, and it's kind of a hot topic conversation because Google, Apple, Microsoft, they all do research as well. And so something that I never thought about too is like we have to stay comparable to all these other companies, because why would someone want to work with Facebook if we're only offering $10 when Google's offering $25? So we have to also keep an eye on what they're doing. It also helps to see if we can keep an eye on what they're researching. I don't think that's too big of a thing, at least in my department, but it's helpful. And so we have set standards of if you're interviewing for 1 hour, that's about $100 in an e-reward, which basically is just a gift card to mostly anywhere you can choose, Amazon, sure. Grocery stores, things like that. But we have to keep up with market rates, just the same as if we were, if I was hiring real people, real Facebook employees to keep up with whatever their job position pays for.
It almost sounds like the Cold War or something. Like you were saying, you want to know what the other person's researching. Like why are they asking that question? Like what are they developing? Oh, I see where they go. Okay, stuff. You need to go get us people like that so we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also kind of like sort of a tie to that too is a lot of privacy issues or like leaking problems where I can't talk about specific projects outside of work to anybody because we may be working on something confidential where we don't want Google to find out.
Right.
I can say right now I haven't worked on anything that specific, but this was kind of those things, and like weeding out people of like, oh, they work in journalism and media, like we probably can't talk to them because they might be a reporter and want to report on this type of research, whether it be just like, hey, did you see that ad last week? Like something so minuscule, but still, right. Trying to keep some kind of control and privacy.
Yeah, it kind of blows me away from a career standpoint, right? Because you were trained in this idea of, I'm going to move into HR and I'm looking for, knowledge, skills, abilities, competencies of a human, and then what are the tasks, duties, requirements of the job, and we want that fit. And you hire people and you interview them, but you're actually taking that same skill set and you're saying, what are the knowledge, skills, abilities, in this case, demographic attributes, whatever it is, of research participants? What are the needs of the researcher? And so it's kind of like you're doing recruiting, but you're not actually hiring any employees.
Yeah, and I actually have a slightly good example. I'm working on a study that's closing on Tuesday.
Don't tell us about it. Don't tell us.
I will tell you. I can tell you though, like the researcher, she gave me all these criteria. She had lists pulled for all these criteria for people, and she wants to, or I guess kind of has to do a second study because her first study didn't pull the results she was wanting. So she talked to the right amount of people, but she did not find anything, worth her research and to help her research. So
support the hypothesis. I've been there. Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah. So it poses the question. I won't go like too rambly, but like, is it even important to talk to people if you're not getting, the right kind of responses? And if people aren't responding, do they even care about the things you're researching? So like, there's so many things that I never would have thought of. I've only been in this role for like 3 or so months. But it's just a huge learning curve about all of these things that they
Yeah.
kind of do, but I feel like will help me also too in like whatever role I choose to go into next.
So you almost feel like you're becoming at least familiar with the data science process and the research science process.
Yeah, I'm getting a glimpse of it. I still like they taught us how to pull or like to do what's the Q
Qualtrics?
One of the coding. No, not I do Qualtrics.
Oh, okay.
But it's one of those coding sites that I am embarrassing myself.
Yeah, you lost me. I barely passed IT.
See, they taught us how to code, and they're like, "This is how the data scientists do it," but like 10 times harder. So I'm like, "Why even teach us?" But like a glimpse of it, and it's cool.
Right.
I don't know where that big information comes from. But I don't think I should. I don't know. I feel like I shouldn't say more.
No, it's fine. So why did they? Last couple of questions. Well, one of them is like what you love about your job, but what do they love about you? Maybe pick either one of those.
I think so. I think it kind of goes hand in hand. The people are the best part of what we love about our job. Like I think I can speak for my team as well. We only have about 4 here in New York who are on our team. Most people are on the West Coast, but I think that is the biggest reason that I myself and our team loves our job. So hopefully, like they love me as well. And so we also have created I hate saying it, but like we're like a family. But like really, like we trust each other.
You made a cult. That's great.
I made a cult. Yeah, we're getting tattoos next week.
Yeah.
But like we just really trust each other to help, share our experiences. I'm like, hey, this happened to me with a participant. I just want to let you know. So, and also like questions aren't stupid. That kind of sounds like, well, duh, but it's like, even if someone's asked it before, it's like, please ask again. Like everyone, was there at one point learning or going through that same situation. So I think that's one of my favorite parts is, I guess that ties into the culture of the company, or I guess culture of our team. Everyone's super, super open, and just, so friendly and able to help, and also teach, which is something that is new for me. Like if I'm like, hey, I don't know how to schedule this type of participant, someone's like, I'll teach it. Like, let's hop on a call now.
Yeah.
So everyone has just been so easy to work with and just so friendly with their time.
Good crew. All right. You know the last question then. What sucks about it?
What sucks about it? Not much. Like, so I may still be in the honeymoon phase because I just started like, a couple months ago. But the biggest thing that does suck is kind of like also the best thing is like working with people. Love working with people. What sucks about it is my job solely relies on working with researchers and working with timeline, and they have to give me everything I need to be able to run their studies. And so a lot of times it's like, hey, like I have one right now. She needs to get me her stuff by the end of the day, and that's in like an hour. And so I don't think it's going to happen. So everything has to get pushed off, or I'll be crammed next week trying to figure everything out like in less time. So that is the sucky part is sometimes it can be helped and with just quick reminders, and sometimes they really are backed up. So that's kind of the worst part is like waiting for people and then trying to stick to timelines and deadlines. It doesn't always happen, but
it is kind of the HR model, right? It's like it's awesome because every day is different. You get to hang out with people, and it's horrible because every day is different. You have to hang out with people. Right on. Steph, you're awesome. It's good to see you again. Thanks for hanging out today. Anything you want to leave in terms of like advice, wisdom, like best counsel you were ever given, or something that you want to leave with us?
The best advice I was ever given that I still think about was when I graduated school, my sister-in-law gave me the advice of like, you don't learn everything in the classroom. Like, no, trashing on going to school and being in class. But
I agree.
A lot of the biggest things I've learned in life are outside of school. And so I try to keep that perspective of if something happens, if it's challenging, even if it's cool, but if it's like really hard, I'm remembering that can be a learning experience for me. Yep. And so I hope that is something too, like your students can take on.
Don't be afraid to get burned, I think is what.
Yeah. Everything can be, if something's negative, you learn why it's negative and try not to do it again in the future. Like my very first job, I hated it, but I learned why I hated it and will never do it again. So, turn it into a positive.
Awesome. Alrighty. Steph, thank you. Good to see you. I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Likewise. Have a good rest of your day.
All right. See you later.